The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
With so many people living longer, the fear of outliving your money becomes a reality for many of us. Will I be a financial burden? Will I outlive my money? How will I be remembered? My name is Neil Himmelstein, president of Main Street Planning Group. Please contact me by visiting mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. I will introduce you to strategies that will guarantee you will not outlive your money, that can guarantee you will not be a burden on your loved ones. Through a collaborative approach, we will uncover solutions that offer tax-efficient strategies, lifetime income, and legacy planning, choice, organization, direction, and education. That is the code we stand behind. Contact mainstreetplanninggroup.com, that's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. And listen to me every Friday at 3 p.m. as I host the Main Street Code for Financial Success, right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock. And if you miss my show, you can always catch me on Spotify or Apple. And always go to my website at themainstreetcode.com and get some past episodes and lots of information. When we talk about our code, we talk about choice, organization, and direction and education, and we help hundreds of advisors across the United States, whether they're CPAs, attorneys, or other insurance professionals that seek out our advice for insurance, life insurance, annuities, disability, and long-term care. And we also are your quarterback for helping you with any of your financial needs. If you need an accountant, you need an attorney, you need someone to do investments, we like to coordinate everybody together to help you with your plans. And today we are very fortunate to have with us Joe Templin. Say hello, Joe.
Hello, Joe.
Okay. Well, Joe, I met. Joe's an author and a writer, and he does talks, and he talks about everyday excellence. And I met Joe at NAFA. And NAFA is an organization I've talked to other shows about. And Joe, you've been with NAFA a long time. You want to tell me a little bit about what NAFA is and what they do and how they help people and all that stuff?
Sure. So NAFA is the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. And back when you and I started, it was actually called NALU because it was primarily life insurance focused back then. But life insurance, just like an annuity, just like disability insurance, just like a will, just like a 529 plan, they're all just tools in the hands of advisors to help clients be able to reach their goals. And the profession has evolved a lot over the past 10, 15 years in that it's not just the financial goals we're trying to help clients with. It is the being able to pay for college. It is the managing debt for young individuals. It is making sure that the kids and grandkids have the same sort of belief system and work ethic and creating this legacy. And so we have evolved to being, in a lot of ways, life coaches, with finance being a strong component of that. And that's what NAFA does, is we help advisors, whether it's the brand new rookie or the 40-plus year veteran, be better and help and serve their clients in the best possible manner.
Absolutely. And NAFA also is there for the consumer protection, not only like in the state of New York, for instance. Joe and I are both on the board in the state of New York, and one of our main objectives is to protect the consumer, and we are also looking at, different products. We have a situation in New York where not all the same products are approved like the rest of the country. So we're out there for the consumer. We are the association that is for the consumer's protection as well as the agent's protection. And my advice has always been, if you're going to work with a professional, make sure he belongs to his professional organization. And that's what NAFA is. Wouldn't you agree, Joe?
I just need to pen that he, she, or they. because we have seen over the past 20 years a lot of females come into the profession, and this is actually really good because females listen a lot better than males on average. They're much more empathetic, and if you look, guys die on average 7 years before a female. And so there's a lot of people out there who their husband has passed on and they want a female advisor because of the greater understanding and having lived some of the similar things. So that's the one thing that I would say is he, she, or they, because some people prefer other pronouns. But yes, to extend it, if your professional is not a member of NAIFA, are they really a professional?
Right, absolutely. And, we had a long talk about a lot of different things. And, Joe, he graduated from Johns Hopkins University, which, by the way, is in Baltimore, where I grew up. And my brother went there, and my nephew went there. And Johns Hopkins, a marvelous place. And I don't know if you know that. But, when we talk business and stuff, one of the things that Joe emphasizes is discipline. And we talk about discipline as an important tool in financial planning. Can you go into that a little deeper?
Sure. So the former Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink, has a saying that discipline equals freedom. And this is absolutely spot on. So if you have the discipline to not eat the donut, to not smoke, you're going to be healthier. And that's going to make you feel better. You're going to be more productive, and it's going to save you a ton of money with your healthcare costs long range. If you have the discipline to save early, that money is working for you so that you don't have to work for your entire life. So I used to do a lot of work with young people just graduating from college, 22, 25 years old, and the habits, the discipline that they can learn early on benefits them for their entire life because the money they save in their 20s is literally worth 4 times as much as somebody trying to save the same dollars in their 40s because time is their ally. So having the discipline to sit down and make a couple extra calls if you're running your own business, or having the discipline to squeeze out that extra half mile to take care of your health, or having the discipline to buy the insurance and put a little bit more away when your kids are young means that they won't be burdened with student loan debt, which then gives them freedom for their future. So discipline equals freedom, and this ability to have discipline from doing hard things crosses in all areas of our lives.
I agree. And a lot of times I'll get a call from somebody and they're in debt, or all of a sudden they come into a little bit of money, like $10,000, and they go, okay, how do I invest it right away? It's more of having the discipline to do something on a regular basis. Whether you have debt, whether you're saving, even paying down debt, you want to do it in a disciplined manner so that you can later on be very financially successful. And that's the biggest thing I preach, and I thank you for that. And I think your book goes into that. I think it's quite a thing. I always tell people about their health. I know my auto mechanic, or a lot of people know their auto mechanic better than they know their own doctors, because they take their car in for oil changes and they do a good job and they wash it every week, yet they don't take care of their health, or they don't put money away for themselves or their family. So then they run into trouble down the road. Just like if you don't maintain your car, if you don't maintain yourself health-wise or financially, then you run into trouble. So planning is so involved with discipline. And that's really, I think, well put, Joe. So I appreciate you for that.
I have a saying, to be excellent, you have to be consistent. Let me repeat that. To be excellent, you have to be consistent.
Exactly.
If you go and you run 5 miles once, you're not going to get much healthier. But if you run for 15, 20 minutes 4 or 5 times a week, you're going to see the benefits of that. If you cram for an exam, you may or may not pass it, but you're definitely not going to learn as much as if you spend 15, 20 minutes a day studying it.
Right. I agree.
And if you eat, salmon and salad 2 days a week and a dozen donuts 2 days a week, you're not going to be improving your health. It is having the consistency around it. And same thing when it comes to setting aside money for your future, whether it's your retirement, your kids' education, what have you. Consistently setting it aside builds that habit, builds that discipline, and that's what's going to make you successful in the long run, as opposed to being sporadically and emotionally driven.
Well, that's all great advice, and we're going to get more into that and more about your podcast and everything, but we do have to take a break. You're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. If you need to reach me, I'm at 631-647-4694, and I have my guest, Joe, who has a great book. Is it on Amazon, or where can you get your book, Joe?
Amazon, or you can get it from my website, everyday-excellence.com. That's everyday-excellence.com.
And we're going to be right back, right after the commercial. Welcome back to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I can always be reached at 631-647-4694 or themainstreetcode.com. And we are excited here today to have with us Joe Templin, who is an author, and he also has a podcast called the Human Kaizen Podcast. Tell me what that's all about.
So Kaizen is a Japanese concept of continuous improvement. And Kaizen came about after World War II when everything was bombed out, and they couldn't get all the brand new machines. So they had to work on improving their processes by having less waste when they were manufacturing things, for saving energy, for making things a little bit more efficient or effective and decreasing cycle time, to have better quality. And when Toyota first came to the United States in the 70s, their cars were horrible, quite frankly. But with this mindset of Kaizen, of continuous improvement, very quickly they were as good as the ones coming out of Detroit, and eventually better and cost less. And this concept's been applied to software. It's been applied to every manufacturing process. But really, we haven't applied it to the most valuable resource in an organization, the human resource. When we're little kids, we get better all the time. We learn new skills. We learn how to tie our shoes. We learn to ride a bike. We learn languages. We learn instruments. But by the time we get to be adults, people stop trying to get continuously better. And if we make just tiny little changes, we can improve our productivity, our health, our relationships, our mental health, all these different things. And so tiny little changes, the smallest possible changes that can be compounded in over a week, month, year, couple of years, we can actually be so much better that we can't even comprehend the level that we can achieve.
That's fantastic. And I know that you also volunteer a lot of your time towards the Autism Society. And, when autism is such a huge thing, I want you to talk about that, but also the importance of special needs planning. I want you to talk about
autism is becoming more and more prevalent. At this point, it's roughly 1 in 34 kids are diagnosed with autism. 3 years ago, that was 1 in 54. So we're seeing more and more people on the spectrum and with these needs. And some kids, like my oldest, who's Asperger's, they can, with just a little training and guidance, be able to be fully functional and contributing members to society. Some kids are further along the spectrum, need more work, like my youngest, and some people will actually never be able to be on their own. I have a couple of really good friends whose children will always be children in some capacity. They will never be able to take care of themselves. So, I have one friend who actually built a self-driving car company to help his kid have mobility. That's my friend, Dr. Jason Eichenwald. So there's things like that. But we, as the parent, as the provider, need to step on up. When our kids are little, we put them in the proper car seat. We make sure that they're wearing their helmet when they're first learning to ride a bike. We make sure that they understand what is good and what is not good in terms of their growth and development. And, if they can drive, it's like, okay, you have to be home by a certain amount of time. We need to, in a lot of ways, extend that. We get life insurance. We do basic will planning to take care of our spouse and our kids. But if these kids are going to, in some capacities, be children for their entire adult life, we need to do the planning and protect that and protect them and set up the parameters to take care of them when they can't take care of themselves. And that is the entire idea behind special needs planning. And the next degree I'm going to get, actually is the chartered special needs advisor.
Right. And special needs planning, the kind of assets you leave behind if you have, let's say, like in your case, you have 3 children, and let's say one of them can't function later in life, but you don't want to leave them a ton of money per se, unless it's involved inside a special needs trust. And why is that?
So we need to, one, make sure that they can still qualify for whatever public assistance that they can get, guidance, support, things like that. But also we need to make sure that the kids do not become completely and totally dependent. We basically want to push our kids to their limit of what they are capable of. And we do this whether it's a neuronormal child who we want them to grow and develop into the best version of themselves, or if it's our special kid, our special needs kid, who with some pushing and support can become almost fully functional on their own. And so the planning takes into account insurance, takes into account investment work, it takes into account guardianships and supervision, it takes into account living conditions, and the goal is to get them as free as possible in all capacities. And literally, that's what we want for our kids. We want our neuronormal kids, our regular kids, and our special needs kids to grow to their capacity.
Exactly. But when you leave assets behind, though, if you don't do planning, it could be a disaster. And
yeah, I mean, it basically in any situation, if you don't plan, then you're going to have a disaster. I've seen people inherit millions of dollars, but have all sorts of issues in terms of addiction or things like that, and the money has destroyed them because they didn't know how to handle it.
Right.
So special needs and advanced planning apply to everybody because money is just like alcohol or power. You don't give an 18-year-old, bottles of whiskey because they don't know how to handle it. You don't give an 18-year-old $10 million either because we've all seen these child actors and rock stars came into a lot of money really quickly and they didn't know how to handle it. So planning puts some parameters around it so that they don't get too much too quick, whether it's a child with special needs or a child that is just a normal kid. Too much too quick is a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's all involved in planning, and why you really need a good planner, no matter what your situation, whether you're a business or you're an individual, you need to plan. And planning, I hate to say it, planning eliminates problems. And failing to plan is inviting problems because we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years. We don't even know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. I mean, just look at the last year alone. What's happened with interest rates? What's happening with mortgages? What's happening with everything in society? Ukraine, here, there. It changes in an instant, and for those who haven't prepared, they're suffering. Now, COVID was a classic example. They say a lot of what's going on in the economy, they contribute to COVID. And I can tell you the biggest issue that happened in COVID that's contributing to the economy now in a negative impact and positive for some, but a lot of people are working from home, but you have companies working from home, and many companies have not been able to assimilate, and many companies have excelled. So, for instance, in the insurance world, or Suffolk County, or one of these bureaucratic places, you find that transferring your phone or being on hold for hours at a time to get anything done is the norm. And that's because they haven't set up the infrastructure to go from one person to the next, or nobody's in the office anymore. So that's become a major, major slowdown in the economy in getting things done. So these are all things that you need to plan for, because we never know what's going to happen next. And in your book and in your podcast, you talk about planning and discipline, and I think it's all very important. You've been listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock. Or if you miss me, you can catch me on Spotify or podcast, Apple Podcasts. We have that. Or you can check out my website, themainstreetcode.com, or call me at 631-647-4694. And Joe Templin, how can they get a hold of you and buy your book?
So the easiest way is to go to my website. You can buy a book on Amazon, that's great and all that. But if you go to my website, everyday-excellence.com, that's everyday-excellence.com, in addition to being able to get the book and being able to reach me, there's all sorts of additional free resources there. So like this podcast will live there forever. There's a daily blog. There's links to the YouTube channel. So there's all sorts of resources so that people can continuously make those tiny little changes to improve themselves in their lives. And that's ultimately what it's about, just making those little sustainable changes to be in a better place long range.
Thank you, Joe, and have a great weekend, everybody.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.